it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And we tap on various different parts of the hand. So we might tap here or here on the fingertips, or here on the in the third eye, which is actually where the amygdala, which is the fight, flight, freeze response within the brain structure. And you often see people doing this to calm their nerves down when they're worried or anxious. They might do this. Hello, and a very warm welcome back to Raw. And today my guest is Rachel, who was actually in a terrible car accident, a road traffic accident that left her with a broken spine and in a halo. For those that don't know what a halo is, it's a brace that protects the spine all the way down to keep it in situ. But it leaves the victim very restricted and also very vulnerable. Hello, Rachel, and lovely to have you here.
Hi, Jane. Thank you for having me and for the introduction. So I had a horrific car accident about coming up to 3 years ago now in March. I was living in Australia doing farm work, and one morning on my way to work, I rolled my car down a hill, and I managed to somehow scramble my way out of the car up to the road, because when the accident happened I was in a place where it was quite rural and I didn't know if anyone was going to see me from the road or if I was going to be just left there.
That must have been really scary.
Yeah, it was really scary, yeah. But I think adrenaline at the time kicked in and allowed me to sort of think on my feet and get myself out of the car and up to the road for help.
That was amazing that you did that.
Yeah, I feel like it was quite courageous at the time. I didn't realise that I'd actually broken my neck in several places. So when I arrived at the hospital after a plane journey and then a helicopter ride to Brisbane, I found out that I had crushed my C1 and dislocated my neck at C6 and C7, and also had a wedge fracture at my T2, T3.
How did that affect you? So all of those spinal numbers, what was the story behind those numbers?
Okay, so the C1 is your rotation, so that's what I kind of needed the halo brace for. It's kind of fixtures your head in with screws in the front and the back.
So it stops you from moving from side to side.
And it fastens around here, so the only way you can move is from your waist. Okay. You can't move from your waist up. You can move your arms, but I couldn't move any of this sort of area of my body. So that was what the halo was made for, and they also said that my wedge fracture would just heal within that as well, because I wouldn't be moving this part of my body.
So where was the wedge fracture?
The wedge fracture was at my T2, T3, so it's your thoracic spine is kind of like in this general area. And then my C6 and C7, I have a scar here where I had a metal plate fixed to basically fix the dislocation, because they said to me that I could either have a metal plate, which would mean I'd get 70% of movement back, or I could have it fused, which would mean I'd lose at least like 50% of my movement, so I'd have probably only been able to turn my head like very minimal.
And how are you feeling now, 3 years on? And what have you done to help yourself to heal some of that trauma?
Had a lot of therapy and physio. So I've worked with 4 or 5 different physios now, and gone for different types of massages and things like that, which has kind of helped with the physical side. But I found that a lot of physios these days don't really like to be very hands-on, so it was more giving you the exercises and you had to kind of be very strict at doing them, basically, because I felt like if I didn't, then I wouldn't get any better.
So you were motivated to do these exercises that you were given?
Yeah, very, because I thought that if I didn't do it, who was going to do it? That was kind of my mentality. Like
Okay.
this terrible thing had happened to me, and I knew that if I wasn't going to get myself better, then I would just be sat there miserable. But I know that I definitely neglected the psychological side of things because I needed to get better first and foremost. It was the physical. Like physically, I needed to get through it. In the halo, it was a lot of mental stuff as well. I know that I was called by a psychologist who said that I was on top priority list to be seen at home because, I don't know, they must get a lot of people with, I don't know if there's like high death rate or people feeling really suicidal when they're in a halo.
Okay.
Just the mental effects that it has on you, just
Absolutely.
this heavy thing being on your body and not being able to do daily tasks by yourself, like going for a shower and walking outside and things like that was quite difficult. They also said to me things like, the worst thing that can happen to you right now is if you fall over or like slip in the shower, because you've obviously got this thing that could just penetrate into you.
So they basically re-traumatised you.
Just a
very
little bit.
sensible, very sensible thing to do not.
Yeah.
So did you have any support out there? Because you were obviously working on a farm. Your family were over here. What sort of support did you have out there?
I was living with my partner, so his parents and him were very supportive. At the time of the accident, they both came to the hospital. But because of how rural we were, as I was saying earlier, I had to be flown. So where we lived, I had to get flown to 2 different hospitals to actually have my surgery. And my partner met me at the first hospital, but at the time he was working, so his mum flew over to be with me until my mum got there. So the support that I had was mostly them, and then my mum and my sister came over for a week. Okay. But because it was during COVID, I wasn't really allowed many visitors.
An extremely challenging, traumatic time of your life.
Yeah, it really was. Like my little brother would have liked to have come as well, and he wasn't able to. And my dad didn't have the COVID vaccine at the time, so he wasn't even able to fly to Australia to come and see me. A lot of my friends who actually lived in Australia also didn't have the vaccines through their own choice, couldn't come and visit me and things like that. So
you were left alone?
Yeah. A lot of the time spent in hospital, I was alone, which, looking back, I feel like it probably should have traumatised me more, but because I was on such strong medication, it kind of, that blocks the psychological stuff as well, I think, because I was on morphine. Okay. I didn't really feel much to start with. And someone said that to me before, that when they had an accident, they said to me, don't give me morphine because I want to know how I'm feeling right now.
Okay, so it actually froze your emotions.
I believe so in some way, yeah, because when it wore off and I actually realised, wow, I had to look at myself in this thing every day and this has actually happened to me, this is real, this is not just a dream. Mm. That was really hard, like waking up every day and being in this sort of fixture. And I think I had a lot of sort of guilt and shame as well about the accident and that I'd done this to myself, and I had to wake up and see that every day in the mirror. It was really confronting.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really challenging and a massive, massive struggle. But you're climbing up the hill.
Yeah, definitely.
And finding your way over the other side of it. So tell me a little bit about what you've done to help yourself through this, both psychologically and physically. So you've mentioned physio. But nutrition, have you been watching what you eat? Because obviously the gut is one of the main connections to mental health.
It's been a bit of a journey. Like the physio side of stuff I've always found quite easy because I was given exercises and I was quite determined to get physically better. So I went to the gym and did things like yoga classes and did a lot of walking, and quite recently got into running as well. I was a little bit nervous about some of those things as well, like the running, whether it would have an impact on my spine.
And how have you felt with that? How's it helping you?
It's been okay. Like sometimes when I run, I can get quite a tight jaw. I've been told by others that they get the same thing when they run as well, but I don't know if that's to do with my neck or not. But they've said that it's fine to continue running, and I'm not running that far that it would make
You're not
a
doing
difference.
a marathon just
No,
yet.
not yet. And then, yeah, I've definitely been more sort of aware of what I'm eating, especially since the accident. To begin with, I was really strict on making sure I got a lot of vitamin D and things like that because of my bones. And I wanted to make sure that I'm taking things like collagen tablets and things like that. So definitely have started to learn more about nutrition and trying to help my body in that way. I also had really bad skin from my accident as well, because I think all the antibiotics and the medication that I was on, it really made me come out with a lot of acne and things like that. So I knew that there was something wrong, so I tried to sort of heal it that way. But I also ended up getting a bit too obsessive with it and ended up having to have like an iron infusion because I wasn't eating enough meat. I was focusing so much on getting all this green vegetable in for the vitamin D that I wasn't eating enough meat and things. So I have sort of found a balance with all of that now.
Okay, that's amazing. There is a massive link between mental and physical health and physical and mental health. But and I've seen it on many occasions where people have been physically sick and cleared the emotional load and the physical illness goes away, and also vice versa. So I've seen the mental state cause physical issues, and once you clear that, again, the physical issues go away.
Yeah, I do definitely feel like I've healed a lot physically. I still see improvements now, but if I get upset, my neck and shoulder pain definitely flares up from it, yeah. And I think it's the way you hold yourself as well and things like that. But yeah, after my accident as well, I didn't really like taking things like medication and things, so I've tried to find different like healthier alternatives, like for pain medication and things like that, because obviously with the severity of my injuries, I do get quite a lot of sort of muscle tiredness and things like that. So I started taking CBD oil, which also helps with sort of things like depression and anxiety and inflammation in the body. And I found that really beneficial, and it makes me feel like I'm still able to help my pain, but in a more sort of natural way that's not going to harm my body.
Okay, cool. And from a psychological point of view, so how are you feeling now after having the halo removed, and you've now moved, I understand, back to the UK, but your partner's still in Australia?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
It's quite difficult, to be honest. Mentally, I think that I had to push a lot of it under the rug to get physically better. And when I was in Australia, the psychologist that I was given was actually a medical health psychologist. So he was just given me purely because I was in the halo to get through like the medical side of things.
Okay.
And he was really good. He did give me sort of ways of trying to change my thought process.
So he did CBT with you?
He did CBT and he did a bit of EMDR with me, but I didn't kind of find that helpful for me. I found it hard to be distracted and naturally talk about the way that I was feeling and bring up the thoughts of my accident and things like that. I didn't find that I could relax into it. I don't know if that was him or just it wasn't the right therapy for me.
Yeah, it could have been a variety of different reasons. But for the listeners, CBT is cognitive behavioural therapy, and that basically is around how we change our thought processes around different scenarios and offer individuals different perspectives. And EMDR is an eye movement desensitization regulation, which actually what its ultimate aim is for a trauma-based therapy, but it's actually used to rebalance the vagus nerve. And I speak a lot about the vagus nerve because the vagus nerve is one of the 12 cranial nerves that runs between the brain and the gut. And it basically sends us either into fight, flight, or into freeze. So we either go from running away, being, trying to run away from situations, which is what you will have had to do to get yourself out of that accident, or into freezing situations where people have seen animals play dead in the wild to survive, and humans have the same response. And that runs through another of the cranial nerves called the dorsal nerve. So I believe that you were probably running from fight, flight into the vagus situation and then back into freeze and vice versa through the whole of that situational journey.
Yeah, I definitely think that I had a lot of feelings trapped and a lot of sort of beliefs that weren't necessarily my own, of things that people have said to me over the course of my accident. You just wouldn't believe the kind of things that people tell you.
It's interesting to talk about beliefs because, as you just said, beliefs don't necessarily come from you.
Yeah.
They are taught or learnt behaviour.
Well, I had doctors say to me, you are pretty much guaranteed to have arthritis because of the damage that you've caused to your bones, because especially the ones in my C6, C7, the reason I had to have the metal plate there is because everything around it was crushed. They had to take everything out and kind of fix those two vertebrae together.
So a doctor actually said to you
You
that you're more or less guaranteed to get arthritis.
Yeah. Since then, I have
How cool's that? Not.
I have since had a few doctors and physios say that, look, you do have people that are lucky that don't actually get it. If you keep fit and you move and you make sure you're doing all your exercises on a regular basis and things like that, you might get it, but you might not have pain. Like, having arthritis doesn't guarantee that you will have pain. Like, people can have it and have no signs of it. And there's lots of...
But what if you don't get it?
Exactly. Exactly.
There's no guarantees.
No. And just people saying things to you like, oh, you won't be doing that again. Like, as if I chose to just drive off a cliff.
What would be more sensible, do you think, in situations like that? How do you think people could respond in a more in the kind? I know people don't do things on purpose and they don't say things on purpose, but how do you think that they could have reacted differently?
Most of those comments were kind of from sort of like an older sort of generation of people, and I think sometimes it's like the whole, oh, come on, get up and get on with it, like, you'll be fine. But I do think that if you don't really know the right things to say, sometimes it's better to just give reassurance, or I'm glad you're okay, and like, if there's anything I can do for you, like, just let me know, kind of thing. There's never really a right thing to say, is there, when somebody goes through something
no people
traumatic.
don't know what to say, actually.
Yeah, and often people say nothing, which I think is also...
can be worse.
Yeah, it can be worse.
Like you don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about some of the psychological therapies that you've been using to help release these trapped emotions of grief and loss and shame and all of these other things that you've been using to help yourself.
So from the beginning, one that's kind of really stuck with me is deep breathing exercises. I've always really found that if I'm feeling overstimulated or getting upset about something, to take some deep breaths in and out. And I've also quite often listened to sort of like meditation music to relax me as well. Did a lot of that when I was in my halo, if I was feeling overstimulated, because I often got this feeling of, you feel like you've got this heavy backpack on and you want to take it off, but you can't, it's fixed to you. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of sort of meditation, sort of relaxing type of things. But I've also been doing a lot of tapping recently, which is...
Explain to us where you've been tapping and why you think that that's helped you.
On different parts of the body, so on the neck area and the face and the hands. And I don't fully understand it at the moment because it's a new therapy that I've been starting, but I find that it's a distraction in a way as well at the same time. I think the tapping's kind of soothing, but it's also distracting. You're doing something with your body while you're talking, which is sort of taking your mind away from...
Yeah, it stands for emotional freedom technique, and we tap on various different parts of the hand. So we might tap here or here on the fingertips, or here on the in the third eye, which is actually where the amygdala, which is the fight, flight, freeze response within the brain structure. And you often see people doing this to calm their nerves down when they're
Yeah.
worried or anxious. They might do this or they might do this. And that's a natural response. But if we tap on these points, what it does is it removes internal blockages from the information centres. So we have information centres. We have one here, we have one here, we have one here in our throat, we have one in our chest, one in our gut, one in our pelvic region. And they are all linked to information points or information centres where we hold on to different stuff, different information. So in the pelvic region, we might hold on to fear or worry, and in the chest area, that's around the heart. So if we feel lost or we're going through a breakup or a relationship, we might get a bit of heartache.
Yeah.
And so when we tap on these various different points and speak about our experience, it's actually releasing the pressure that sits within them. And then the cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, releases too. And that way we can alter the perspective by speaking out loud and changing the story. We can get into the belief system that way too.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Yeah. So the information centers, I like to see them. They're called chakras, and they're coloured. So they have various different colours to them. So the base chakra right in the root is red, and then you go up the body and they go into different colours. The colours of the rainbow. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then there's violet. And then we can surround ourselves in like a magenta light that is a protection colour to build inner strength. And I know you've been doing some work around colours.
Yeah, no, I have found that really helpful. So you kind of have a sort of feeling somewhere and you draw a shape and put a colour to it and take a deep breath and breathe it out. And it's kind of really releasing it. Like I've never felt anything like it before, like an immediate release afterwards. You kind of feel like calm and quiet. And
so it takes the pressure off.
Yeah, definitely. That's really been helping me at the moment. Okay. Yeah.
And then tell me what you're doing now while you're back in the UK. What's your vision going forwards?
So it's been quite a journey trying to sort of get back into what you'd kind of say is like a normal sort of lifestyle. So the past 3 years I've been on a very sort of regimented recovery program of not just physio but also psychological help. That just became my life, so sort of getting back into a routine of doing things that I like again and just looking for work. So at the moment I haven't actually been doing my hobbies as much as I would like to. I'm very into pottery and macrame, and I was doing a lot of that over in Australia. But at the moment I've kind of just been doing exercise and sort of job hunting. So,
and how's that going?
It's quite difficult because, like I say, I've been unemployed for coming up to 3 years now, through a choice of my own, because I was able to financially, I had the money to help myself and take that time off. And I wanted to make sure that I would be the best version of myself going back into work. I didn't want to go back still mentally struggling or still in pain. But I'm finding it difficult with references, and it feels like I'm starting over again, not only in my 30s, but also because it's like I've sort of been reborn after my accident and trying to understand what I like again and what I don't like and what I want to do as a career.
Trying to find yourself again.
Yeah.
But you're doing amazingly well.
Thank you. I'm really trying, but it has been quite a journey just trying to figure out the things that I enjoy again and what I want to do as a career path, because I feel like now that I've got older, the things that I did before just don't seem like they align with me anymore. I kind of want to go down a path that's going to sort of, I don't know, something with that I'm passionate about and that I'll enjoy long term, not just sort of like a temporary job. So that's been quite difficult as well, trying to find something that I want to do sort of for the long run.
Have you learnt anything from this experience?
About myself, quite a lot. Yeah, I've learnt a lot about myself in terms of the way you speak to yourself. I think has definitely had an impact on me. I had a lot of guilt and shame around my accident and how it happened, and I think that's had a lot of impact on my recovery and the physical and mental side of things. Just trying to come to terms with that this is my new body now, that acceptance, yeah, definitely, and grief for my old body as well, because I was only 27 when the accident happened. I was physically fit, I was doing farm work, and I'd never ever broken a bone. I'd never had anything wrong with me. I'd been
your whole body was in shock.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, I think I went all out and broke probably the worst thing that you could break for my first bone. But yeah, it's been life-changing really, because I have had to start over pretty much with everything.
It's really, really difficult to go from all of those struggles, but you found strength.
Yeah. I was in it was a very vulnerable situation, being in a halo brace, for many reasons, as you can't do anything for yourself, like all your independence and things that you enjoy doing are kind of stripped from you. And then when you start to get them back, you've kind of got this kind of like anxiety about it, because although this thing that I was in for 3 months, I hated it, by the time it was coming off, I was like...
It protected you.
Yeah, I was terrified to have it off in the end, because...
It was your protection, wasn't it? It was your saviour in those moments. It kept you alive, it kept you safe, it kept you all of those things. And, you know, they say, don't they, that you need all your basic needs being met. So you need your food, your water, your shelter, your breath.
Yeah.
And I suppose your breath was restricted too. When you're in that halo brace, it gets stuck, so you can't breathe fully and openly. And then you need to feel safe. And of course, in that moment, you lost all the safety aspects of what you knew.
Yeah.
And then I suppose you didn't then feel like you belonged anywhere. You were in the middle of nowhere. You weren't in your hometown, you weren't in your farm town, you were flown miles and miles and miles away where nobody was there.
Yeah.
And that must have been really challenging.
It was difficult. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat that, but I do think that the therapy side of things has really sort of helped the change in my mindset. And a lot of people go through things that are worse, and I know that's not always a way to look at it, but I think that one thing that's always helped me throughout my recovery is that it could have always been worse. Like, I was also told that at the time of the accident that I could have been paralysed because of where I dislocated my neck was on a nerve that could have given me loss of feeling in my arms or my legs.
There's a belief again that can get stuck.
Yeah, I did have actually quite a bit of nerve damage in my right arm, which I still do get sort of tingling feelings because I don't think it's fully lifted off the nerve.
But you're working towards that, I'm sure.
With physio and things like that, definitely.
Okay, and what does your new Rachel look like?
New Rachel. I'm still trying to figure that out at the moment.
In a dream world, what would she look like?
In a dream world, I would like to go on to help people in a similar situation or be able to offer advice, which is why I kind of wanted to come onto this podcast. If there was anyone out there that is struggling, that in a time of need like I was, that it is always going to get better and things do turn around if you've got the power to push on and help yourself.
Things are all always changing,
Yeah.
always evolving. Nothing stays the same. Nothing good or bad stays the same.
No. But I would like to go into something that I'm passionate about, maybe with my pottery or with my degree in media. I'd like to maybe do something maybe self-employed and kind of figure out where I want to settle, because at the moment I'm kind of doing a long distance relationship with my partner in Australia, which is quite difficult because I'm like trying to settle here and kind of understand if the UK is somewhere that I want to be again after being away for 7 years. So it's definitely taking its time, but I'm just trying to do baby steps at a time at the moment.
And that's the best way forward.
Yeah.
Taking little bit by little bit, and not trying to climb ladders before you've got to the first rung.
Yeah, I feel like I find it quite hard with that because can be quite impatient. I want everything to happen straight away. So
Trying to be perfect in an imperfect world.
yeah, and I think that's the root of my anxiety is, trying to do too many things at once. But at the moment, I'm just trying to find a part-time job and get back into some sort of routine so that I can build some confidence again to work.
Well, you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a very brave and heroic thing to come and speak about your real life story.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on here today.
It's my pleasure. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been really good. Thank you.